What's good, guys? Derrick here from DaseDesigns.com, back. In this video I got a full-on tutorial for you guys. So in my last video someone requested to do a tutorial on how to create something similar to this, kind of like a mock-up presentation, you know, to create for your logos and stuff. So that's what I'm going to be bringing you today in this video. So first off, we're going to need a fire logo to use. I'm going to be using this logo I created last year. This is, you know, feel free to use whatever logo you want to use, guys, whether it be your own logo or one of your favorite team's logos. So I'm just going to be using this one. And then next up, we're going to be needing, as you guys can see, some very dope, you know, apparel templates. So what I usually use is I go to yellowimages.com. They're a fantastic website, and I purchase you know, really professional templates. Like this is the one that I used in the last YouTube video for the fallen angel. For this video specifically, I'm going to be using this one. It's kind of got a sporty look to it and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to check out their website, and if you do decide to purchase this specific one, be sure that you're buying the PSD mock-up, so it's actually a template and not a picture. So yeah, anyways, we're going to get started. I'm just going to close this one. I don't need to save that. So yeah, anyways, so first off, I'm just going to begin with our mockups. So when you get the mockup, it's going to look something similar to this without these pictures on there. It's going to be blue instead of black. It's more so going to look like this, and that's for the smart objects that they have. But I don't really use them. I usually just quickly go in and change things. So we're going to go into the smart objects layer. The shading layer. First off, we're going to go into Adobe Illustrator, copy our logo, Control-C, and then Command or Control-V inside of the shading layer. And we're going to put it below our t-shirt shadows. I'm just going to shrink this a bit, make it a little bit smaller. And then, yeah, so that's about a good size. And then next up, I want to add a little shirt tag. So for my for this logo project, I made sure to create them a word mark, as you can see, separately from the logo. So I'm just going to go down to parts. There's a panel down here called parts. Then there's a layer called back. So I'm going to change that to this gray color that I have. Another thing I wanted to mention, be sure to copy and paste your logo on top of everything. As you can see, so it's outside of the shading, it's just above everything. And then push I on your keyboard, and then just simply click on the colors so you have them all up in your swatches panel. So yeah, now I'm just going to go about adding the colors. So again, I'm going to get this animal focus layer, right, logo, and then go above the back layer inside of the parts area, the parts panel. And I'm just going to click and drag this up here, bring the size down a little bit. That's probably a little too big. And then I'm just going to double click it, create a color overlay, and then change it to whatever color I want. In this case, I'm going to be focusing on the colors of yellow, black, gray, and white, just to match with this specific logo that I'm going to be using. This tag is kind of big, so we're just going to shrink that up to about there. So yeah, and again, what I've done to change the colors, usually I usually create a new layer and then pick the color that I want that specific part to be, hold Option or Alt, and then push Delete. And then what I do is hold Option or Alt again, and then left click above. So if you can see right over here, when I hold Alt or Option, and then hover in between the layer that I just created, this colored layer, and then the layer that I want to clip that to, this clipping mask tool pops up, and then we're just going to go like that, and then it creates a clipping mask. So if I change it to yellow, you'll notice it changes that color. Obviously there's another way, but this is just the fastest way. So now I'm just copying by holding Option or Alt, clicking and dragging, and then creating the clipping mask, you know, for each individual part. Like there's a front, right arm, and left arm. And then for the parts, be sure to make sure that your collar is the same color as your shirt. And for the stem, or whatever, the stem, whatever that is, I made it yellow. Then I'm just going to do the same for the back. All of the stitching, I'm making sure that's the same color. The stitching, the front, inside of the panels layer right here, inside of the parts panel, sorry, group, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm also going to create an alternative to this shirt, which is going to be yellow. So this one, we got a red one and a black one. I'm going to be, in this tutorial, I'm going to be doing a black one and a yellow one. So yeah, I'm just going to create the yellow shirt off camera. Now I'm just going to do the same exact thing for this one. I want it to be black. So I'm going to go into our smart objects group or whatever, hold Option or Alt after I created a new layer, and then create that clipping mask again. You can also alternatively right click and then, well, I got to release it first, but you know, create clipping mask just by going like that, and it'll clip to the layer that's beneath it. And then again, I'm just going to Option click and drag these down and then create the clipping mask all over again. I want the arms to be yellow, so I'm just going to click on that layer that's clipped to the right arm and then do the same thing on the left arm, hold Option or Alt and then delete, and I'm going to do that after I've clicked the yellow color in my swatches panel. Again, I want mine to be yellow. And since the middle panel of this hoodie is the blackish gray that I got, I want the hood to do the same. And then off camera, I created this shape right here. So this shape basically covers this whole inside area. And then one thing I could do is make this yellow, and then make like the stem or the stem, whatever, right there, yellow. But I really want the inside of the hood to be black instead, so I'm just going to switch it up to black. So that's just kind of like a little color offset just to do something cool. So now anyways, I'm going to go back up top, scroll up top into our hoodie layer. And then I'm just going to go back to Adobe Illustrator, copy and paste our main logo right here that I'm going to be using. Again, feel free to use whatever logo design you guys want to use, whether it be for a current project you're working on now, your own personal project, for personal branding or something like that. And then, just make sure it's nice and centered. I'm just going to bring down the size a bit. It's not snapping for some reason, but that'll do the job for me. And then also with this template, the specific one, when you go into the hoodie layer, this is where all the highlights and shadows are. So without those layers on, that's what it looks like. And then, so yeah, the hoodie highlights, I like to put this on the screen. I'm pretty sure it comes on screen when you use the template, if you buy this one. And then the hoodie shadows, yeah, so originally it's on linear burn at 100. You'll notice it's got this, it makes it look very gray, like that yellow. If I cut it off, it's nice and bright and yellow, but it adds kind of like a grayish color. That's because it's on linear burn. So anyways, instead what I like to do is copy that layer, put it on linear burn 100, then duplicate that same hoodie shadows layer, and then put it on overlay, and then put it on about 50. One thing you might need to adjust is the opacity, but yeah, about 50 works really well for mine. So it adds some more saturation and then takes away some of that grayness and brightens it up a bit. And again, make sure it's clipped. So yeah, we want to make sure that the overlay layer is clipped to our the linear burn hoodie shadows layer. So yeah, now we're just going to go about saving these. So I'm just going to go to File, Export, and I'm going to, when this loads up, the original size is 5500 by 5500. I'm going to reduce that to 2K by 2K, so 2000 by 2000, and then save it as a PNG image once this loads up. So I'm doing this because, as you'll see, it's 16.21 megabytes. That is a ridiculously large image file, which is completely irrelevant for this tutorial. So I'm reducing the size to 2000 by 2000, and then I'm just going to go about saving this. And I'm going to do this exact same saving process for both of my shirts. Again, a black one and a yellow one. Feel free to do whatever colors you guys want. Alright guys, so moving forward, we just finished up with saving our mock-up images. Now I'm just going to simply click and drag those in. So I saved them into this animal focus logo file that I created a while back. So anyways, I'm just going to click and drag this one in. I'm going to be putting the hoodie in the center. So first thing I'm going to do is click on our background layer. Spell that wrong, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, now I'm just going to click one thing, hold or push Command or Control, and then R, and that's how you bring up your rulers. Then click and drag. So when you click on the background layer, as long as it's highlighted the whole artboard, it will lock in the center vertically and horizontally. So that's what I'm just going to do. Now I'm just going to make sure my hoodie is as close to the center as possible. I guess that's about as close as it's going to get. So I'm just going to reduce the size a bit. Just Control T, and then that's about a good size. So now I'm just going to add in the black shirt. I want the black shirt to be smaller than the hoodie, so I'm just going to reduce the size so it's about smaller. So that looks about alright, and I'm doing this just to add some perspective. The farther things away, the smaller they get, or sorry, the smaller they appear to our eye. So now I'm just going to add some more dimension, bump this over. You'll notice that the bottom of our hoodie, our shirt is farther up, quote unquote, on our artboard. I'm doing that just to make so it appears like it's farther behind it. So I'd say that's about right. And again, I'm just going to reduce the size a bit. Actually, that's good. I'm actually going to look at our reference image, or sorry, the one that I created before. So yeah, this one, has a lot of great dimension. There's some shadows and stuff like that to kind of separate everything, some lighting effects, and then kind of like a ground or foreground or whatever, and then it kind of looks like a wall. So we're going to be creating all of that, and or recreating rather. A black shirt. Let's say our black shirt looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is click and drag on our yellow shirt, and then I'm just going to actually wait, one thing I want to do is, we got our black shirt, and I'm going to create a new layer and then drag it behind our black shirt. Push M on the keyboard, click and drag, and I'm just going to select this whole left side, and I'm just going to Alt delete whatever color we have, and I'm just doing that. So now I'm going to click on this color layer we just created, and then our black shirt, Command J to duplicate those two, Control T on those two layers highlighted that we just duplicated, flip horizontally. Now I'm just going to click and drag those over. And I'm doing this so that the shirt on the right side is going to be in the exact same place. It's going to be the exact same distance away from our hoodie in the center. So now I'm just going to delete that one, delete these two layers that I just created. So now we got our shirt, and I'm just going to bring that one to the bottom. This will be shirt 2. So anyways, so yeah, now I'm going to go back to dragging in our yellow shirt, or my second colored shirt, whatever that shirt color is for you. And now I'm just going to Control T, and adjust the shirt so it's the exact same size as the one we just duplicated. And this creates a great, I'll say, balance. And yeah, I don't know what the heck just happened, but yeah, this creates a lot of great balance in the photo, so that they're both the same size and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about perfect for me. And now, okay, so now I'm just going to delete that. So yeah, we got our yellow shirt and we got our black shirt, or you got whatever shirt colors you're using. So now we're going to go about adding highlights and like the floor per se. Yeah, so this one goes to about mid-range, or sorry, it's about, a better way to do this would be using the law of thirds. So law of thirds, I'm going on Google, type that in. There should be a basic image. So yeah, this is good enough. I'm just going to copy this image, click and drag, or sorry, I copied it, now Command V to paste it in. Now I'm just going to adjust it to our artboard. So Control T, and then boom. So ideally, our ground should be where that line is. So I'm just going to bring down this opacity like that. So again, I'm going to go to our background layer, create a new layer, and then push M on our keyboard and highlight an area that's identical to this weight, or sorry, to this size. Now I'm just going to put it on black, and then Option or Alt backspace, and then Command D to deselect. Now I'm just going to get rid of that. And you could leave the bottom or the foreground, the ground black if you wanted to. I'm just going to duplicate this layer, and then the layer, the first layer we started with, I'm going to hold Command or Control and then select this box right here, and then that's going to highlight that area. Now I'm going to click the gray or whatever color you're using for your background or the ground, hold Option or Alt and then delete, and that's going to make it gray, as you guys can see if I was to get rid of our background. So this right here is a layer I just created. So again, we're going to bring back our black layer. I'm going to put it on overlay, and then about 5 or 15 or something like that. So yeah, 15 looks pretty good. I'm going to create a clipping mask, again holding Option or Alt with that black layer, hovering on that Option or Alt, and then when you hover in between the two layers and click, it creates the clipping mask. Again, alternatively, you could right click and create the clipping mask yourself that way. So now to add more of this shading, let's get rid of that, some more of this, so like the darkness around these areas and then light, we're just going to go about doing that. So I'm going to create a new layer, and again, this is going to be our ground layer. I call that the ground, and I'm just going to bring those above. So anyways, I just created a new layer, and then I'm going to push black on the swatches, push G on my keyboard, and then go to this one. This goes from foreground to transparent. So thankfully we already got our rulers. Now I'm just going to click in the center and drag off to the edge, and I'm just going to bring it to the top just so I can see how it is. And I'm just going to push E on my keyboard to give the eraser tool. I'm going to zoom out by holding Control and Option, or sorry, Option or Alt, and then using the wheel on my mouse to scroll. I'm going to make this bigger, and then I'm going to start deleting or erasing just some of the vignette, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called. Just erasing some of that, and I'm just going to drop the opacity to about 15. Hold Option or Alt to duplicate, and then I'm going to put it on overlay, something I like to do, and then maybe put it on like 50 or something. 50 is a lot, so I'm going to put it on like 25, and that looks pretty good. So now we're going to duplicate that, or control both of those that we just made, and then bring that beneath our ground layer. And I hate the way they look. This needs to be darker. So I'm just going to create a new layer, do the exact same process, G on my keyboard. Everything should be the same with regards to the gradient we have chosen. And then again, I'm just going to zoom out and start deleting a bit of this. That looks about good. I want to leave some of this right here, just so it looks more like a wall, because if our light is up here, it's not going to really be able to touch this area per se. So yeah, I'm going to put it on overlay, about 25. Maybe 35. So yeah, that looks all right. Looks okay. Put this on. I just duplicated the layer, put it on normal, and then 5, and see what that looks like. Usually the ones that are normal for me, the normal layer, I leave that pretty low. So now I'm just going to create a new layer above all of the, or beneath all of those. It's going to be the first layer above our background layer. Push B on my keyboard. I'm reducing the size. Make sure you got black selected. I'm just going to click and drag and hold Shift and put it all the way across. And that really looks pretty good. I'm going to put it down to about 25 maybe. Just something really, really small that you can't really tell. And then I might do a quick little burst in the center. And yeah, so that looks pretty good. I kind of want to create a clipping mask for these right here. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate those, the two top shadows, so the two that are over everything. And then again, I duplicated those. Now I'm just going to highlight both, right click, create clipping mask, and now it's going to be clipped to our ground. But I don't like the way that looks, so we're going to get rid of it. So this looks pretty good. I created another one last night, and unfortunately I forgot to record the audio, so that really sucks. But anyways, now we're going to start adding some shadows and shading to our shirts right here. Add some shadows beneath, and then some additional shading and highlighting on the shirts and apparel mockups themselves. Alright guys, so moving forward, as I said, we're going to be adding some more stuff to these shirts and the apparel. So right now, it doesn't really make sense. We've added some shadows and some highlighting to the background. The apparel already has that, but it doesn't really fit in with the space. Usually, you know, objects cast shadows. So right now, our apparel isn't casting any shadows. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to focus on the hoodie first. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer, and I'm going to go down to this tool right here, the ellipse tool. And then I'm just going to simply create a quick oval. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. So yeah, I guess I just did that. I'm not really sure why it's not showing me what it actually looks like. But anyways, that's good enough. So yeah, that's actually pretty centered with our hoodie. So now I'm just going to go to, or sorry, I'm just going to right click, rasterize that layer because I'm happy with it. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Then about 25 looks really great. Thankfully, this shadow, the density, and just like the darkness works pretty well. So now I'm just going to hold Shift, and as you can see, use my arrow keys to bump it up to about that area. Part of me feels like I can Control T, hold Option and Alt, and then click this one just to make it. I just made it skinnier, so I just went like this, but just did the opposite like that. So yeah, that looks about good. I'm actually just going to leave it how I first had it. So yeah, now I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to do the same thing for the little hands right here. So yeah, I duplicated it by Command J, and I'm just going to try to align it with this one. Now I'm just going to shrink the size. Also going to make it a little bit wider, fatter, whatever. So now I'm just going to bring it in. So right now those are too big. It needs to be smaller than the actual object itself. And then that about matches that. Never mind, it does not. Kind of looks like our mock-up has like an outline or something like that you can barely see. So anyways, that looks about good. Again, I want this to look as if it's floating on the ground, but you know, realistically. But now that the depth of that is too dark, so I'm just going to bring it down to about 25, 35. Let's see. Say about 35. I'm going to duplicate that one and then make Control T, and I'm just going to make it smaller. And then I'm going to hit that same Gaussian blur again. Boom. Which did not do what I wanted it to do. So yeah, I'm just making it look a slightly bit more, I guess, realistic in that case. So now it's kind of like a double shadow. I actually do want to hit it with a Gaussian blur, put it on about 5. This is just me being extra, guys. It's not something you got to do, but 5 worked really well. So as you can see now, this shadow right here has kind of got 2 layers to it, 2 dimensions. Kind of want to bring them both up. Maybe increase the opacity of the bottom one, 845. Nah, this one that I made smaller, I'm going to put it on about 45. Anyways, that's good. So I'm just going to duplicate those 2 right there, the ones we made for the hands. By all means, guys, if you're obviously not using this hoodie mock-up, yours is going to be a bit different. So just go about putting them where they need to be. It's probably going to be similar. So this one is a little bit closer. And I'm just adjusting it to fit. And yeah, I'm actually going to bring all of these down a bit. 1, 2, 3. And the top ones, those are the smaller ones that I made. I'm going to bring up the opacity to about 50. Actually, on the one that's on the right, since our light source is going to be over there, the shadow might be a bit brighter. Or the shadow might not be as extreme over there. So I'm just going to raise the opacity. So again, now for our base one, I'm just going to Alt or Option, click and drag that beneath our black shirt. And then the ones that are for a hoodie, I'm just going to group those and then call it hoodie. And then, so yeah, this one's going to be for our black shirt. So I'm just going to Control T, drag that over. And that looks pretty good. I could probably bring it down a bit. But yeah, that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to Command J that, duplicate it. That's how you duplicate. Bring it beneath our yellow shirt. And I'm just going to literally click and drag and hold Shift. So I push Command or Control T to adjust the shape, and then I held Shift while I dragged it over so it's on the same line, you know, horizontally. So when I'm holding Shift, I can't move it up and down necessarily, but it's on a perfect horizontal axis by doing that. So yeah, now I'm just going to bring this one over a bit. I'm also going to lower the opacity a bit, about 75, and that looks pretty good. Just because you know, this dark gray in comparison to the black, it doesn't look so extreme, but when it's against this yellow color, which is super bright, it makes the shadow look a bit too dark. So I'm just brightening up a bit just so it works in comparison to my eyes. Like technically, if I was to sample this color, which I'll do really quickly, in comparison to that one, you'll notice the grays are going to be different. So this is the one from this side. Remember these numbers, 48, 48, 48, in comparison to this one. So this is this color, so I'm going to click and it's going to get darker. See, as you can see, this is the one on the right side and this is the one on the left side. But when we zoom out, it looks about identical, just because of the difference of the shirt due to contrasting colors. So great, that looks pretty awesome so far. This is the one that I made last night that unfortunately the audio, I forgot to record that. So yeah, as you can see, for the background right there, I put I expanded the logo back there just to kind of add something in the background so it's not so plain. So that's what I'm going to do. Copy our logo from Adobe Illustrator, paste it in here, and then I'm just going to, you know, drag it in there. And I like to leave the eyes in there because I think it's super cool. But again, this is just my logo. Feel free to go about how, this however you feel looks best. And then I going to go to Image Adjustments and desaturate that. I don't want any color to come through. I'm going to drag it, or sorry, bring it to Overlay. Bring the opacity down to 5, 3. 3 looks pretty good. That's interesting. Okay, so I actually use this one, so the one without the text. So I'm just going to do the same process again. And I want my eyes to shine through. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that actually is a lot smaller. Just going to make this logo smaller. Again, I want those eyes. Alright, so Image Adjustment, Desaturate, drop that to about 3 and throw it on Overlay. And I'm actually going to Shift click just to bring it up a bit, just so the eyes are there. So yeah, that looks pretty dope, right? So again, we still got a few things to do. You'll notice this one has some shading. Again, like I said, on the shirt itself. Without it, it just doesn't really look that good. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add it to that shirt. So we're going to start with the yellow shirt first because that's the one that needs it the most. I'm going to create a new layer, hold Option or Alt, and then click, and then I'm going to select the color black. And then now I just noticed something. I'm actually going to bring my yellow shirt and the ellipse over. I'm going to bump those over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a little space there. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the black shirt, but this time left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so that gap isn't there. See, that gap is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually. So I'm going to do the same thing for the yellow shirt and its thing. 6, bump that over. Okay, great. So again, go back to the layer we created. Select black, push B on our keyboard. Now I'm just going to create some shadows right here. Just because of our light sources over here coming from behind the apparel, it's going to be slightly darker on the front side of it because again there isn't that big blast of light on the front. So I'm just going to click and drag and kind of brush this in. That looks about right, so I'm going to throw it on maybe 5 and then duplicate that layer and put it on top and then create that clipping mask again, throw it on overlay and try out 25 and see what that looks like for the opacity. Not 525, but that looks pretty good. In comparison to our image, it looks almost exactly the same. Oh, wait. In comparison to our image, this one has a little bit more, the one I created last night. Slightly better, I think. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it on this top overlay layer, go back to brush, and then just add some more like that. And that looks pretty good, maybe 35. That kind of makes it. So yeah, when you do the overlay, it kind of adds more saturation to it. That's why I kind of like it when in comparison to this. If I put this on 35, it'll become gray, as you can see, and that looks really ugly to me. So I'll try out 10, and that looks good. Alright, I'm just going to go bring the overlay layer up to about 35. That looks even better. So now, for my specific color palette, along with the colors and everything, and this specific mockups, this black shirt is good. It doesn't need anything. One thing I'm going to do is do a nice quick blast of a highlight on this left side and the top left of the shirt. So I'm going to click on our black shirt layer, create a new layer above it. Again, Option or Alt, and then right click, and then that's going to create that clipping mask. I'm going to push white on our swatches, and then I'm just going to do a quick burst up here, which you might not be able to tell the difference to, but if I hide and show it, you can see it. I'm going to throw it on overlay because I don't want it to make the shirt gray. I just want to add more contrast to that white. So yeah. Alright, that looks pretty good. It looks alright. It might not be the most necessary thing. So again, I'm going to go back to our yellow shirt area, create a new layer above our shadows, again, that we did on the yellow shirt, whatever color shirt you're using, white on our swatches. Now I'm just going to add some highlights to the side over here where my main light source is going to be. So as you can see, that already makes a slight difference. I'm going to put it on, keep it on normal, chuck it on about 50, duplicate that layer as usual, make sure it's clipped, throw it on overlay, see what that looks like. 100. Okay, computer's lagging. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to quickly add some more to this hoodie. So these are a bunch of ellipses. I gotta do this. So I'm just going to open up the hoodie layer. First, I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to our black shirt layer, and then I'm just going to group all of that, and then go to our yellow shirt layer, and make sure you group everything, the shirt, the highlights, shading, and the ellipse for the shadow on the bottom, and then group that. Let's call this yellow shirt or right shirt, and then our black shirt is going to be the left shirt. Things are looking super dope so far. Again, I just wanted to add some highlights and shadows to this hoodie really quickly. A quick one, create a new layer above our hoodie, and then I'm going to be sure to create that clipping mask. Doing this all inside of our hoodie layer. Since the main portion of our light is coming from the top left, I'm just going to add a quick little shadow, or not shadow, but some darkness to the bottom left of this hoodie. So black selected from our swatches. I'm just going to click and drag across, whatever. Something like that. I don't want it to be too much. And then I don't really want it to affect. Okay, that's great. Just the way I did it. So I'm going to throw this on overlay and then bring the opacity down to about 25. That looks pretty good. I'm going to create a new layer beneath that one. As usual, the one on the bottom, I keep that normal, not dissolve. but normal, and then bring that down to about 5. I don't want it to be too much, but it just adds slightly more to it. And goodness, this yellow shirt just looks so gray for some reason. So anyways, for that yellow shirt that's on the right, only for mine, because I feel like it looks this way, I'm going to click on our yellow shirt, click down here, and then go to vibrance. I'm going to bump up the vibrance to about 25, maybe 50. Now I'm just going to turn that off. And yeah, now I feel like that makes more sense. I feel like without it, it was a little gray for some reason. Maybe I'm just tripping or something, but I might bring it down 35 or something, just in case. So yeah, 35 looks pretty good, and now I feel like it's a bit more balanced. So yeah, again, I'm just going to add a quick highlight to the top right side of our hoodie. So now go back to our hoodie group, create a new layer, make sure it's clipped to our black hoodie layer, and push white on the swatches, B on our keyboard, and then I'm just going to boom, just like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to double it up. So now this really separates it from everything. I'm actually going to bring that normal layer down to 25, create a new layer per usual, and then bring it to an overlay. I'm going to hide those to see what it does. All right, now it looks pretty good. I'm actually going to, I'm not sure, maybe it's just lighting in my room. I want to say that looks pretty good. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so forgive me guys. But anyways, that looks fire so far. And then you'll notice this one kind of changes a little bit. Some of the coloring, it's not a perfect gray. And then also with this one, everything has this bluish tint to it. And I did that because the grays used in this Forsaken logo isn't an actual gray, it's kind of like a light blue. So I did that just to kind of add some more coldness. Again, the lady, she's like a fallen angel, you know, like vampires, when you think of stuff like that, they're like cold. Think of like cold, so that's why it's overall blue. It just adds more effect, more character to the overall image. So this one is just a super plain gray. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go above everything. This is just kind of where I put my stuff at, my info. Feel free to do the same if you want. So anyways, I'm going to create a new layer, push G on my keyboard, go up to this thing up there that was there, and then I'm going to choose this blue to purple, or sorry, purple to orange. Push G on my keyboard, start from the top right, make sure all of these settings are the same, reversed, dither, transparency. I'm going to click from top right, drag to bottom left, and then throw this on overlay and put it on like 5. That looks super fire, but it doesn't really work. This looks pretty dope, but it doesn't work for this, so I'm going to bring it down to about 5. And this just kind of adds an extra dimension of color and lighting, just something extra, just makes it slightly more interesting. Maybe 5 is too much. Yeah, way too much. So I'm going to bring it down to about 2 or 3 for my specific image. So I'm just kind of bouncing back and forth between my old image, and that's way too bright. So bring it to about 1 on overlay. And that about does the trick, and that looks pretty good so far. So yeah, now I also brung in these two things right here. There's a vibrance layer that you can barely tell the difference to, but these are the settings that I have, just plus 35. And then there's also a levels layer, and then a layer right here, a black one. I'll call this noise layer. With a lot of my images, like you can see, there's noise, and even with this one, if I was to bring this on full screen, you'll notice there's noise in there, and I just do that just to add an extra dimension and to kind of bring it all together. It's not something necessary you need to do, but I like to do it. So how you do that is I create a new layer. So yeah, I'm just going to do it. Create a new layer, put black on your swatches, hold Option Alt, delete, and that will fill that whole space with black right there. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and I usually use between 5 to 7 on this specific size for a template. Like I said, it's 1920 by 1080, so about 5 to 7 works really good. I leave it on uniform, and then monochromatic, that makes everything black and gray. If I was to do that, and maybe if I could zoom in, if I turn it up. Okay, so when the monochromatic is off, you'll notice it does this color. Maybe if this was like a retro video, that would be fire, but it isn't. So I want monochromatic on. Now you can see it's just black, white, gray, stuff like that. I'm also going to go with 5. And yeah, you couldn't really see the difference. Sorry about that. But anyways, I'm going to put it to about screen. and 75. So you'll notice when you do this, it does add slight, a little bit of that noise. Could just duplicate it, but you'll notice on the black, it makes it slightly brighter. As you can see, like especially in this area, you can really tell when I put it on screen, it's not as dark as before. So what I do to combat this is create a new layer above it by going down here and then clicking levels, and then this will pop up the screen, and then I have mine on about 6, and that works for me with this specific setting. So when I go like this, you'll notice there isn't much of a difference. That kind of darkened it up a bit. So one thing you can do is create that clipping mask, and then bam, now when I hide them and then bring them back, you can't really tell any difference at all, except for the fact that there's some noise there, some slight noise. So I'm just going to bring up the opacity and that noise. And then again, it just adds some slight noise to it. You can completely leave this off. The one that I did yesterday looks better in my opinion last night, but stuff happens. So lastly, the last thing I want to do is just add a quick burst of light right there. So I'm going to go to where our background layer is. I'm going to bring this above everything except for our shirts, our apparel. So create a new layer, again above our ground layer and all the highlighting and shading. White, B on my keyboard, and then a quick burst of light up here. Boom. Now that just really slightly emphasizes the fact that there's light over there, the main source of light. And I threw it on overlay. And yeah, that looks pretty good. As you guys can see, you can really tell the difference. One thing I could do is like slightly get rid of some darkness down there on this bottom ground layer. But I'm just going to leave it how it is, guys. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. I'm going to be doing some more. Again, someone requested this tutorial from my last video. And again, I usually do a lot of stuff like this just in a bigger format on my own portfolio. So some of my inspiration came for this one that I'm doing in this tutorial came from like my previous presentations that you guys can check out here. As you guys can see, I love the yellow images mockups. They're ridiculous quality. So yeah, feel free to scavenge their website and other websites like creativemarket.com. It's another great one. You're not really going to find the same quality when it comes to apparel as yellow images. Leave me alone, guys. So I'm just going to go to Mockup. But yeah, they have dope mockups that you can check out on their website, from leggings, if you need some female stuff, to dope buildings. So yeah, be on the lookout. Be sure to scavenge for dope mockups to really help present and showcase another level to your logo designs, like how they could potentially look in the real world, or just show like merchandising reasons like this. It just really adds another level of professionalism and just like a different level overall to your portfolio. Oh yeah, lastly, links to these specific mockups, this specific shirt and specific hoodie will be linked in the description of this video and in my pinned comment in the comment section. If you guys would like to request any additional videos, any future videos, any tutorials, be sure to comment in the comment section. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to check out some more, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.